Welcome back to another Alvado video. Now in today's video, we're going to be watching a game played by the current rank 1 holder in NA, Setsuko, or as some people like to call him, Swetsuko. Because of course, if you see this guy on, the Wild Rift, or whatever the TFT version of Wild Rift is, the carousel, you already know he's going to be sweating. His sweaty plays is exactly why he's able to make it seem like he can hit level 9 practically every game. Now, before we get into this video, I shouted it out in my last video, but I do now have a Discord. Look, we got about, like 40 people in here now, and I've only had it for like one day. You can see someone's streaming a TFT game in there. That could be you. But yeah, join my Discord. If you want to get better at TFT, that's easily one of the best ways that you can do to immerse yourself in the community. But yeah, let's get into this game. So we ended up starting Belt. He contemplated whether or not he wanted to make this GP2 and have the belt stuck on it, but he goes ahead and makes the GP2 anyways. Now we can see the first augment of the game. He had trade sector and something else, and then target dummies. He looked up the stats, and he was considering either trade sector or target dummies. Target dummies had like a 4.23-ish, and then trade sector had like a 4.35-ish, so he was like, okay, I'm just going to take target dummies. Pretty common theme. In our last video, Yoon had also taken target dummies in the early game. So maybe if you see target dummies and you're not, picking it as often, then, that's something to consider. Maybe you should be picking target dummies more frequently. So he's able to find a Senna and a Sivir in the same shop. And even though he started Belt, he gets dropped a sword. So he's already considering trying to play around AD. And of course, AD is how AD is half the reason why you want to go level 9 in the first place, because you can stabilize around, a Samira 2, a Bel'Veth 2, or an Aphelios 1. And then if you can, reach level 9, then you can get to the point where your board is just the strongest board in the lobby with like a 3-item Aphelios 2. And then you don't have to worry about losing a round. But of course, he's going to play the game from a spot where he's trying to maintain as much HP as possible, deal as much damage as possible, while also trying to figure out exactly how he wants his board to look. Now, a common theme is exactly that. I want you to, maybe at some points where I'm not able to focus too much on how he's maneuvering his board, there's a lot of turns where he really puts in like massive thought into how he's not only positioning his units, but also considering like which units are stronger. Like, look, you can see even here, he's like trying to figure out if 3 laser core is better than a Nilah plus Sivir, which gives him the sure shot. And he's fighting against a player who's on level 6 on 2-5, and if he chose to put in laser core here, then maybe there's a chance that he loses this round. But since he has so much experience playing the game, he knows exactly like what he needs his board to consist of for it to be as strong as possible. He knows that, the Nilah plus the Sivir is what's going to make his strongest board, not the Yasuo plus the Ashe. Yasuo is a worse unit than Nilah, Ashe is a worse unit than Sivir. Even though he would gain 2 laser core, or he would gain laser core on both of these Sennas, he's also losing sure shot. And since he has these target dummies, sure shot is a very valuable trait because it's essentially like an Archangels for like AD units. You get ramping, you get AD over time. So the longer a fight goes on, the easier or like the more AD your units get. And I think part of the reason why he knows that, the sure shot is stronger than the laser core there is because he has no MR shred items. If you have like an MR shred item, then I think laser core is easily stronger, but without the MR shred item, laser core really is not that powerful. So he gets dropped basically perfect items. And you're probably looking at this game right now and thinking, okay, well, I'd be able to go fast 9 from this spot. He's 100 streaking. He has like literally perfect items. He has a bunch of really good pairs. and then he chooses to level here to, you know, maintain his win streak. But the thing is that this is basically where the high rolling stops. Yeah, I had watched a bunch of games of his, and he is able to go level 9 a lot of times, and, you know, in previous games that I had watched, he definitely does some, like, pretty massive high rolling. Like, there was a game that he played where he got dropped a Samira 2 on level 6, and then he basically just, like, went level 9 off of that. But I can assure you that the high rolling essentially stops here, and, you know, he utilizes all the knowledge he has about the game of TFT to actually, you know, push level 9. So I kind of skipped over the second augment there. Of course, you know, a common theme in these videos is that high level players are very good at tailoring their augments. If you didn't catch it, he made it so that he only had Sure Shot and Civilian in. And then he got offered 3-3-2. And since that Senna or Samira, since that Sivir is the only civilian that you can get offered, because there's no 3-cost civilian, the 3-cost slot was always going to be contain a Senna in there. There was no possibilities where he would not get Senna. So he saw his first 3, and he got Absolution, which is the carry Senna hero augment, and he doesn't like Absolution because Absolution is only good when you're going for like Senna 3, but he didn't want to play for Senna 3 when you're going fast 9, or like when you're trying to play around capped, you know, AD, and you want to you want to play around Samira and Aphelios and all them. And so he doesn't want to have to like roll deep on level 7 to try and hit on the 3 if he's going to, you know, go for that like capped board. So he ended up re-rolling, and instead of getting Absolution, he gets the Core Formation is what it's called, the Senna support augment. Core Formation, it gives your team all adjacent units. So basically, exactly how Janna works. So you know how every unit next to Janna, it's like lit up. If it's like sunny weather, then all of the hexes around Janna are yellow, and then if you're in the hexes, then she gives your whole, you know, the teammates, the teams, your allies in the yellow hexes a shield. Senna's support hero augment works exactly like that, where it's not only the units to the left and right of Senna, but every unit around Senna. And they get 20% AD. So this is kind of where I want to talk about how AD works. So in previous sets, if you're kind of coming back to, you're getting into set 8, and you've like taken a hiatus from TFT for a while, you might have realized that AD is now in percent, kind of like AP. And so what does that mean? That means that if you're getting 20% AD, let's say you're playing a unit with 50 AD. If you're getting 20% AD, then you're getting 10 AD because they have 50 AD. 20% of 50 is 10. And so you can see in this spot, he's playing 2 Sennas because they actually stack with each other. Now, even though you gain AD multiplicatively, the stacking is not multiplicative, it's additive. So what does that mean? So let's say this Senna has 50 AD, like in my previous example. Then if she's getting 20% AD from one of the Sennas, then her AD is going from 50 to 60. And now let's say you have 2 Sennas. So it goes from 50 to 60 because of one of the Sennas. And then the other Sennas, you would think that now it's going to be 20% of 60, but that's not how it works. It's actually just all off of your base AD. So instead of adding 20% of 60 AD, it just adds 20% of the base 50 again. So you're just getting 10 AD, so 50 to 60, and then 10 more AD, 60 to 70. So I know that's like, you know, a lot of numbers and it's like pretty complicated. I hope you kind of understood how I broke that down. But yeah, the reason why AD is so much more complicated, even though we've dealt with this system with AP for the entirety of TFT, the main difference is that AD units, you know, their AD scales with their star level, and it's not always an exact number. But the thing with AP is that AP, every unit always just has 100 AP. So AP is a percentage, but the thing is that if you have 20% of 100, that's just 20. So AP is like super easy to calculate because it's always just, you know, the number that it's saying that it's giving you. Okay, so I kind of, you know, haven't been talking too much about the game, so let's start talking about the game. I hope you kind of noticed exactly how he was manipulating his board to try and win a lot of those rounds. You can see he's still 100 streaking. And because he was 100 streaking, he's able to go level 8 on 4-2, and then he did like slight roll, or maybe he did 8 on 4-3, I'm not exactly sure. But, you know, half the reason why he's able to get to this spot is because he knows about this situation where he can utilize double Senna to, you know, sort of like abuse the support hero augment. So every single unit on his board is getting twice the amount of the stacking AD that the Senna provides. And this is kind of where I talk about how the low rolling ends, or I mean like the high rolling ends, because in the last 2 turns, he was sitting on 5 pairs. At one point in time, he had like Senna pair, Vi pair, Alistar pair, Zac pair, Bel'Veth pair, and like Samira pair. And he finally hits Echo 2, and he had Echo pair. He finally hits Echo 2, but then he's continuing to not hit any of these pairs, and in the previous turns, he like kept on rolling to 0. And you already know for a fact that if he hits, you know, even half of those pairs, then he's way more stable. And he's able to just sit on those units because that would be strong enough to carry him into the late game. But since he didn't hit enough pairs, he just kind of had to sit on them. And now his econ is kind of griefed. And you can see that even though he had basically perfect items, he had 1 tank item in Warmogs, and then he had Last Whisper IE, which is basically as good as you can ask for coming out of Krugs. Look at his items now. He has Shroud, BT, and then another IE. So his items are like kind of scattered. He's missing like frontline items. And then he has to make BT as his best final option for his like 4 sure shot build, which really is not that strong. And so you can see how he's still utilizing the Samira core formation here. Whenever he swaps his positioning, he's always, you know, swapping all the units. You can see how he's not greeting the core formation on every single one of his backliners because we are now in stage 5. There are a lot of units that punish clumping. So he's just going to leave his Samira and his Senna on one side, and then he's only going to give the AD bonus to, you know, this Urgot and this Aphelios. Also, there were a lot of times in this game where he was deciding whether or not he should play, you know, this Zac on his board or he should play a Vi on his board. And there were some turns where he actually chose to just play a Vi over a Zac because he valued Aegis that much. And the reason why he was able to understand why Vi would be stronger in a spot like that is because he scouted. You know, this is Sweatsuko. He's going to scout. If he has 3 players in his pool and 2 out of 3 of the players are AP, then he's going to prioritize playing Aegis over, you know, Zac 1, because the target dummies get more MR, the Alistar gets more MR, the Echo gets more MR. There's a lot higher chance that he's able to, you know, get second wind value. And, you know, he's able to really understand exactly what his team needs at every single stage of the game in order to, you know, save as much HP as possible so that he can actually save money to be able to hit level 9. There was this one turn that I kind of wanted to mention. I think we had passed it, but he was playing I think it was the turn that he chose to put Urgot in. He was playing Vi over something, and then he found this Urgot, and then he realized that he needed... Oh, it was the turn that he took out Bel'Veth. he realized that he wanted to play this Urgot, but he needed more frontline, so he had a Bel'Veth pair, but he chose to just sell the Bel'Veth anyways, because if he was going to be able to fit this Urgot on his board, then he really wanted to make sure that he had enough frontline to support all of his units. Because if he was going to try and play Urgot plus 4 Sure Shots plus Bel'Veth, then he would just be lacking too much frontline, and he would not be getting enough second wind value. So there was one turn where, yeah, he... You know, I thought it was pretty intelligent how he was choosing to, like, swap around his board. You can see he kind of did a slight open sell there. Because he wanted to switch his items around, he put the Zeeks on the Senna. And he did a massive roll down here on 6-1. And that was a pretty smart play there, too. I actually kind of want to go ahead and rewind so that you can see exactly what I'm talking about. So you see he has this anvil here. A lot of high-level players, they pop the anvil immediately because even if it goes to the next turn, then the anvil still stays, and you can you have enough time where you can pop the anvil, and then it gives you just like slightly more time because you're making the decision of, you know, figuring out which item you want on the previous turn, and then you're making all of the decisions about how to improve your board on this turn. But the thing is that since he was rolling so much gold there, he chose to actually leave the anvil closed because the item that he chose out of the anvil was going to depend on which units he was able to upgrade. And since he ended up getting Urgot 2 and Aphelios 2, and the items in the anvil didn't really matter because there was no decision to be had whether or not he should have it in one or the other, or like whether he should choose like a tank item over a carry item. Because since he was able to find Aphelios 2, it's almost always like anything that Aphelios can utilize. And so he got a Hodge in the anvil, and then he just chooses to slam it on Aphelios. Also, some pretty creative boards he just fought against. You can see he just fought against a, if you want to go back, he fought against a built different, like 3-cost reroll build. So he like rerolled Kai'Sa and Nyla and Riven and like Sona. Pretty creative board there. Able to get, you know, they weren't able to win the game, but they were able to get a 3rd place. Maybe if you get build diff, you can consider trying that out. And you can see that we're now in a top 2 situation here. He goes for Thieves Gloves because Thieves Gloves is just one of the strongest items you can get in the late game. He's able to find this Zac 2. Zac 2 opens up a slot because he was playing 2 Zac 1s. He just kind of values, you know, the blobs. He's going to get second win value on his dummies, and he's going to get second win value on, you know, Echo and Alistar. He doesn't really care if he loses the second win value on the Zac because it's going to, you know, pop the blobs out anyways, and they're going to act as some form of just like mindless targets for the opponent that they like still have to get through. And so there's a pretty common theme we can see here with the 2 players that made it to the end. They're both playing around 4 Sure Shot. One of the players in the lobby has Stand United, which is easily one of the strongest traits you can get on this board. But Setsuko's board is just 2 capped. He has 3 item Aphelios 2. There's nothing that you can really do about it. And you know, he's just better. He's just better. It's definitely a bunch of the little things. I mean, the complicated answer is that, you know, it's complicated how you're able to get to level 9, but the simple answer is that if you get to this tipping point where you're just making all the good decisions, you know exactly how to make your strongest board, then there's going to be a lot of times that even if you get a very average game, which I think he did because he high rolled in the early game, he kind of like low rolled in the mid game, and then he kind of like mid rolled in the late game. So it all kind of averages out. But you know, if you're just better, then you know you're gonna be able to have the econ, have the HP to just hit level 9 every game, and then your chances of winning, if you're able to get there, you know, just go up tremendously. Hopefully you learned something from this video. Like the video if you liked it, and I'll see you in the next one.